Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. Next up, we're going to look at 3 essential tips to enjoying your first century. If you've done 30 or 40 centuries, you might not need these essential tips. You might have already taught yourself these, but for those that are doing their first century, that's a 100-mile ride. That's a long ride, very challenging. Let me give you 3 essential tips to help you enjoy those. Tip number 1, this should be pretty obvious, do lots of miles beforehand. Do not, at the spur of a moment, on a whim, decide you're going to do a century if you've never done one without a number of months to prepare. 12 months is not out of the question. So if you go to a century, if a friend of yours goes to a century and you say, oh, I'd like to do that, think about doing it, not the next week, but 1 year. The next year. That will give you enough time to get enough miles, enough experience so that you can enjoy it adequately. Nothing beats miles out on the open road to get ready for your first century. 100 miles is a long ride. So be well trained when you get to the start line for your first century. Also, when you do those miles, you will have hopefully enough experience to keep yourself safe during the 100 miles you're about to do. That is maybe the most important part of training before. Not physically that you can't do it, but for 100 miles, you can keep yourself safe and in the right spot, paying attention, being aware, and avoiding all of the dangers that the open road throws at every cyclist with every mile. Tip number 2, hydration. You will probably have enough nutrients physically to get through a 100-mile ride. Grand Tour is a different story. That's only for the best trained athletes that are already naturally gifted enough to do that. That's 100 miles every day, 3 weeks in a row. And then nutrition is a big part of being at your best as a professional cyclist. But for the beginner, for the first time century rider, staying hydrated, starting well hydrated, and staying hydrated throughout the 100 miles is an absolutely critical element of enjoying it. If you run out of hydration after 50 or 60 miles, which is easy to do when your body is not accustomed to such long, arduous miles as a 100-mile bike ride, the dehydration will knock you out quicker than anything else. Nutrition, you'll probably be able to burn enough reserves to get through it. But be hydrated before you start and stay hydrated throughout. You want to be taking a sip of water from your water bottle pretty much the whole time. Every chance you get, every time it's safe enough to do so, take a sip. You should go through 1 full water bottle about every hour on average. If it's hotter, more, maybe 2 per hour. Don't hesitate to stop at the rest stops if you've run out of water. Don't get dehydrated. That's the easiest way to ruin your first century. Tip number 3, this might be the most difficult tip to internalize and actually fulfill, and that is to stop if you can't finish it with a reasonable level of energy at the end. If you, at your first try, can only ride 80 miles or 60 miles or 50 miles or 40 miles, you're completely annihilated. Don't feel bad if you stop and try again at a future century. That maybe is my most important tip. If you're not feeling well, don't feel that you have to finish no matter what. So those are my 3 tips. If you have to stop, do so. Stay hydrated and train up. If you do those 3 things, eventually you're going to finish a century and enjoy it. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. If you have some tips to help people get through their first century, please go to the comment section and comment. Thumbs up, gotta have those. to keep this channel going. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and you can click on my face to subscribe, and you can click on the t-shirt if you'd like to buy some merchandise. All right, everybody, thanks a lot.